My name is Randall Thompson, 32 years old, and I never thought I would wake up from brain surgery completely alone. The white hospital walls seemed to close in as I checked my phone. No messages from Mom. Nothing from Dad. My sister Amber, whose baby shower apparently took priority over my potentially life-threatening operation, hadn't even sent a text. The nurse looked at me with pity as I fought back tears. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Dad. "You owe us an apology. Before watching, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from." Growing up in suburban Pennsylvania, family meant everything to me. Our home in Westbrook was the gathering place for holidays, birthdays, and Sunday dinners. Mom would cook her famous pot roast, while Dad told the same jokes that somehow got funnier each time. My sister Amber, 3 years younger than me, was the princess of the family. With her perfect blonde curls and infectious laugh, she could charm anyone. I was the protective big brother, always there to defend her from playground bullies or help with homework. Our childhood was typical American suburban life. Little League baseball games where Dad coached my team. Dance recitals where Amber twirled in tutus while Mom videotaped every second. Family camping trips to Lake Erie, where we caught fireflies in mason jars. I remember carrying Amber on my shoulders through the county fair when she got tired, winning her stuffed animals at the ring toss, and letting her have the last bite of funnel cake even though I wanted it. When Amber had stage fright before her 6th grade talent show, I stayed up all night helping her practice. When she went through her first breakup at 16, I drove 2 hours from college to bring her ice cream and watch romantic comedies. Our bond seemed unbreakable. The headaches started during my final year of graduate school. At first, they were just occasional annoyances, a dull pain behind my right eye after staring at computer screens too long. Nothing that 2 aspirin couldn't handle. But over the next 3 years, they intensified. Blinding migraines that left me curled up in dark rooms for days. Sensitivity to light so severe, I wore sunglasses indoors. Nausea that made eating impossible. After a particularly violent episode where I collapsed at work, my friend Taylor insisted on taking me to the emergency room. The doctor ordered an MRI just to rule things out. His expression changed when he saw the results. A tumor the size of a golf ball pressing against my brain. Benign, they thought, but dangerously positioned. Surgery was the only option. "How soon?" I asked, my mouth dry with fear. "As soon as possible," he replied. "The pressure it's creating could cause permanent damage." The neurosurgeon, Dr. Harris, had an opening in his schedule due to a cancellation. May 15th, 4 weeks away. I called my parents immediately. "A brain tumor?" Mom gasped. "Oh, honey, we'll be there. Of course we'll be there." That same week, Amber announced she was finally pregnant after 3 years of trying. Her struggle with fertility had been hard on her and her husband Greg. Multiple failed IVF treatments had left her depressed and hopeless. This pregnancy was the miracle she had been praying for. The family rejoiced, especially Mom, who had been desperate for grandchildren. The baby shower was scheduled for May 15th, the same day as my surgery. "Can't you reschedule?" Amber asked when I told her the conflict. "This shower has been planned for weeks." "The shower has been planned for weeks. But you just announced the pregnancy last week," I pointed out. "And Dr. Harris said the surgery is urgent." "It's just that everyone has already requested time off work," she explained, "and the venue is booked. You know how hard it is to get Wildflower Garden on short notice." Our parents attempted to broker peace. "We'll split the day," Mom suggested. "The shower is at 11 in the morning. Your surgery is scheduled for 8, right? We'll be there when you go in, then head to the shower, and be back before you wake up from anesthesia." It seemed reasonable. I didn't want to make a big deal about my surgery despite its seriousness. I never wanted to be the center of attention, especially not at the expense of Amber's happiness. She deserved this celebration after everything she'd been through. As the surgery date approached, Amber's demands for attention increased. She needed help with shower preparations. She had morning sickness that required Mom's constant care. She was emotional about finally becoming a mother and needed support from everyone. Each family dinner became centered around her pregnancy, with my upcoming brain surgery mentioned as an afterthought. "So Randall, all set for your procedure next week?" Dad would ask after 30 minutes of discussing baby names and nursery colors. The night before surgery, we had dinner at my parents' house. I barely touched my food, anxiety twisting my stomach into knots. "You'll be fine," Mom assured me, patting my hand before turning to Amber. "Now, did you pack the special cookies for the shower? The ones with the blue and pink frosting? I can't wait to see everyone's faces when we reveal the gender," Amber gushed. "Greg thinks it's a boy, but I have a feeling it's a girl." I excused myself early, needing rest before the big day. Dad walked me to the door. "We'll be there first thing tomorrow," he promised. "Try not to worry." "Thanks, Dad," I said, hugging him tightly, drawing strength from his solid presence. The morning of surgery arrived with a flurry of activity, checking in at the hospital, signing consent forms, changing into a paper gown that did nothing to ward off the chill. The anesthesiologist explained the procedure while a nurse inserted an IV. Mom and Dad arrived as promised, looking tired but supportive. Amber texted that she was too nauseous to come to the hospital before the shower, but would definitely visit after. "We love you, honey," Mom said, squeezing my hand as the orderlies prepared to wheel me to the operating room. "We'll see you soon." The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took effect was Dad's reassuring smile and the thought that despite everything, my family would be waiting when I woke up. I had no idea how wrong I was. The return to consciousness was gradual. First, distant beeping. Then, the antiseptic smell of hospital cleaner. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy, but I forced them open, blinking against the harsh fluorescent lighting. My mouth was dry, my thoughts foggy. A bandage wrapped tightly around my head made movement difficult. I expected to see my parents sitting nearby, perhaps Mom reading a magazine or Dad watching the small television mounted in the corner. Instead, I found an empty room. No flowers, no cards, no family. They must be getting coffee, I thought groggily. The surgery had probably run long. They would be back any minute. A nurse with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair entered, checking my vitals. "You're awake," she said warmly. "I'm Nancy. How are you feeling?" "Okay," I croaked, my throat raw from the breathing tube. "My family?" Nancy's smile faltered slightly. "I haven't seen anyone yet, honey, but visiting hours just started. I'm sure they'll be here soon." She helped me sip water through a straw, adjusted my pillows, and promised to check back shortly. As the anesthesia fog lifted, I became more aware of the silence in my room. The clock on the wall showed 2 in the afternoon. My surgery had been scheduled for 8 in the morning and was expected to last 4 hours. They should have been here by now. I reached for my phone on the bedside table, wincing as the movement sent pain shooting through my skull. No messages from Mom, nothing from Dad, not even a text from Amber asking how things went. They must be worried, I reasoned. Maybe they're talking to the doctor. I called Mom's cell. It rang until voicemail picked up. I tried Dad next, with the same result. The hollow feeling in my stomach had nothing to do with not having eaten since yesterday. Another hour passed. Nancy returned twice, her concerned glances saying what her words didn't. I scrolled through social media, seeking distraction, when a post from my cousin Jessica appeared in my feed. "So blessed to celebrate new life with the Thompson family today." Attached was a photo of my parents, beaming beside Amber, who cradled her barely visible baby bump. The timestamp showed it had been posted 30 minutes ago. My hands trembled as I scrolled further. More photos appeared. Mom arranging gift bags, Dad grilling burgers in the backyard of Wildflower Garden, Amber opening presents surrounded by smiling friends and relatives. Our entire extended family was there. Uncle Robert, who had flown in from Arizona, Grandma Sullivan, who rarely left her nursing home, even my childhood friend Patrick, who had moved to Seattle years ago. A live video began playing automatically. Amber standing on a chair, Greg beside her, holding a large black balloon. "Everyone ready?" she squealed. 3, 2, 1. Greg popped the balloon. and pink confetti exploded outward. The crowd erupted in cheers. "It's a girl!" Amber cried, tears streaming down her face as Mom embraced her. I turned off my phone, unable to watch more. The pain in my chest eclipsed the throbbing in my skull. They hadn't just stopped by the shower as planned. They had completely abandoned me for it. Nancy returned with more water and fresh ice chips. "Still no visitors?" she asked, though she could clearly see the empty room. "They're at another event," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My sister's baby shower." Nancy's expression softened with sympathy. "Would you like me to call someone for you? Another relative or a friend, perhaps?" I shook my head, then immediately regretted the movement as pain lanced through my skull. "I'll try them again." But my second round of calls went straight to voicemail. I left messages, trying to sound casual. "Hey, just woke up from surgery. Everything went well, I think. Call when you can." As afternoon faded into evening, the physical pain intensified. Dr. Harris had warned me the recovery would be difficult, pressure and swelling, potential nausea and disorientation. But he hadn't mentioned the special agony of facing it completely alone. I dozed fitfully, waking to check my phone every few minutes. Around 7 in the evening, my screen finally lit up with a notification, a text message from Dad. My heart lifted momentarily, until I read the words, "You owe us an apology." I stared at the message, convinced I was hallucinating from the pain medication. Apologize? For what? For having brain surgery on the same day as Amber's shower? For expecting my family to care that I'd just had my skull cut open? Before I could process this, another text arrived. "How could you try to steal your sister's spotlight? You always do this." My finger hovered over the call button, but a third message appeared. "We'll discuss this tomorrow. Enjoy the attention you so desperately needed." The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. This couldn't be happening. There had to be some misunderstanding. But as I scrolled back through the family photos from the shower, the reality became undeniable. While I lay unconscious on an operating table, my life in the hands of surgeons, my family was celebrating without a thought for me. Nancy found me silently crying when she came to administer pain medication. She didn't ask questions, just gently patted my arm and dimmed the lights. "Try to rest," she advised. "Everything seems worse at night in hospitals." But how could this possibly seem better in the light of day? The family I had loved and supported my entire life had abandoned me when I needed them most, and somehow, impossibly, they were angry at me. As the medication pulled me toward uneasy sleep, my phone buzzed repeatedly, not with apologies or explanations, but with a flurry of missed calls that would continue throughout the night. By morning, there would be 37 of them, all from family members and friends who believed I had wronged my sister on her special day. I woke to sunlight streaming through the blinds and the insistent buzzing of my phone. The display showed a staggering 37 missed calls accumulated overnight. As I scrolled through the list, a pattern emerged. Mom, Dad, Amber, Greg, Aunt Susan, Uncle Robert, family friends I hadn't spoken to in years, even Amber's college roommate Laura, whom I'd met exactly twice. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. "We raised you better than this." What alternate reality had I awakened to? My head throbbed mercilessly as I tried to make sense of the situation. Before I could formulate a response, a voicemail notification appeared. "Amber." I pressed play and held the phone to my ear, wincing at her shrill tone. "I cannot believe you, Randall. You knew how important this day was to me. 3 years of trying for this baby. 3 years of heartbreak and disappointment. And you just had to schedule your surgery on the exact same day? The doctor couldn't do it literally any other time? Do you know how many people asked where you were? How many asked about you instead of focusing on me and my baby? You ruined everything, as usual." The message ended abruptly. I stared at the phone in disbelief. Schedule my surgery? As if I had planned to have a brain tumor and selected the date for maximum inconvenience? My fingers trembled as I typed a response to Mom. "I didn't choose to have brain surgery yesterday. The doctor said it was urgent. I'm still in the hospital. Alone." Her reply came seconds later. Dr. Harris told your father there were other available dates. You insisted on yesterday. This was completely false. Dr. Harris had specifically said May 15th was the only opening due to a cancellation. I had taken it because he had stressed the urgency of removing the tumor quickly. Had my father actually spoken to my doctor without my knowledge or consent? My phone rang. Greg, Amber's husband. Against my better judgment, I answered. You selfish piece of work, he spat without preamble. You couldn't let her have one day, could you? One special day after everything she's been through. Greg, I had brain surgery, I said slowly, as if explaining to a child. It wasn't elective. It wasn't scheduled to spite Amber. Save it, he snapped. Amber cried herself to sleep last night because people kept asking about you. Her one special day, and you managed to make it about yourself again. Again? When had I ever made anything about myself? I had spent my entire life supporting Amber, cheering her accomplishments, consoling her disappointments. I'm hanging up now, I said, my voice shaking. I just had brain surgery, and I need to rest. Yeah, run away. That's what you always do when confronted with the truth. The call ended, but the bombardment continued. Text messages from cousins I saw once a year at Christmas. Voicemails from my parents' friends expressing disappointment in my behavior. Each one built on a narrative I couldn't comprehend. That I had deliberately scheduled a major brain operation to sabotage my sister's baby shower. A soft knock interrupted my bewilderment. The door opened to reveal Taylor, my college roommate and closest friend, carrying a small duffel bag and a concerned expression. Jesus, Randall, he said, taking in my bandaged head and tear-streaked face. You look like hell. What are you doing here? I asked, genuinely surprised. Nancy called me. The nurse? Said you needed someone. Why didn't you tell me your surgery was yesterday? I told everyone, I said weakly. No one came. Taylor set down the duffel bag and pulled up a chair. What do you mean no one came? Where are your parents? Where's Amber? I handed him my phone. At the baby shower. Apparently, I ruined it by having surgery the same day. Taylor scrolled through the messages, his expression darkening. This is insane. Absolutely insane. He opened Facebook on his own phone. Look at this. He showed me a post from my mother. Such a beautiful day celebrating our future granddaughter. Though it was overshadowed by some unnecessary drama, family should always support each other, not create conflict. The comment section was filled with vague references to disappointment and prayers for someone to recognize their selfish behavior. They're talking about me, I said incredulously. They think I had brain surgery to steal attention from Amber's shower. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, Taylor said, shaking his head. Have they even called to check on you? To see if you survived major brain surgery? No. Just to tell me I owe them an apology. Dr. Harris chose that moment to enter, clipboard in hand. Good morning, Randall. How are we feeling today? He noticed Taylor. Ah, family support. Excellent. Friend, Taylor corrected. The family is otherwise engaged. Dr. Harris frowned slightly, but continued professionally. The surgery went very well. We removed the entire tumor, and it appears to be completely benign as we suspected. You'll need to take it easy for several weeks, and we'll monitor for any complications, but I'm optimistic about your recovery. When can I go home? I asked. We'll keep you at least another night for observation. Brain surgery is serious business. Any unusual symptoms? Blurred vision? Disorientation? Just a headache, and... I hesitated, not wanting to sound dramatic, emotional distress. Dr. Harris's expression softened. That's not uncommon after major surgery. The anesthesia can cause mood swings, and of course, facing mortality is emotionally taxing. I can have our staff psychologist stop by if you'd like. I nodded gratefully. After Dr. Harris left, Taylor unpacked the duffel bag. I brought your toiletries, some clean clothes, and your iPad. Figured you'd be bored out of your mind. Thanks, I said, overwhelmed by this simple act of friendship compared to my family's complete absence. Want me to call your mom? Maybe there's been some huge misunderstanding. Please. Taylor dialed and put the phone on speaker. After 4 rings, Mom answered. Randall, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. You need to apologize to your sister first. Mrs. Thompson, it's Taylor, he interjected. I'm at the hospital with Randall. Pause. Oh, hello, Taylor. Did you know Randall had brain surgery yesterday? That he woke up alone? That no one from his family has visited him? Another pause. Longer this time. Of course, we know he had surgery. It's all he's talked about for weeks. We were planning to visit today after giving him time to rest. After 37 angry phone calls? Taylor asked incredulously. After accusing him of scheduling necessary brain surgery to sabotage a baby shower? You don't understand our family dynamics, Taylor. Randall has always been jealous of the attention Amber receives. This was just another example. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Had this always been their perception of me? That I was jealous of my sister? That I would go so far as to fake a brain tumor to steal her spotlight? I think we're done here, Taylor said coldly, ending the call. He turned to me. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to make things worse. You didn't, I assured him. They were already as bad as they could get. But I was wrong. Things could get worse, and they did when Nancy returned to check my vitals and informed me that there had been a slight complication detected in my post-operative brain scan. Nothing to panic about, she assured me. But Dr. Harris wants to run additional tests. As she adjusted my IV, she added gently, Would you like me to call someone for you? Family should be here for this conversation. The irony of her words twisted like a knife. No, I said quietly. There's no one to call. The weight of complete abandonment pressed down on me as I faced the prospect of additional medical procedures completely alone. The morning crept by in a haze of pain medication and disbelief. Around 11, the door to my hospital room swung open, revealing my father. For a brief, hopeful moment, I thought he had come to his senses, that he was here to support his son, who had just undergone brain surgery. Dad, I said, my voice cracking with emotion. He stood awkwardly at the foot of my bed, not meeting my eyes. Randall. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the steady beep of my heart monitor. Finally, he spoke. Your sister has been trying for a baby for years. Years of heartbreak and disappointment. And you couldn't wait 1 more week for your surgery? Any hope I had harbored evaporated instantly. It wasn't my choice, Dad. Dr. Harris said it was urgent. Dr. Harris told me there were openings the following week. You insisted on the 15th. That's not true, I protested. Why would I do that? Dad sighed heavily, as if dealing with a difficult child. You've always needed to be the center of attention, ever since you were little. This accusation blindsided me. I had spent my entire life trying not to be a burden, supporting others, stepping back so Amber could shine. Where was this coming from? Yesterday was supposed to be the happiest day of your sister's life, Dad continued. Instead, everyone was talking about you and your surgery, asking if you were okay, wondering why the surgery had to be that specific day. Because I have a brain tumor, I nearly shouted, pain shooting through my skull at the exertion. Had a brain tumor, which could have killed me, if not removed promptly. Don't be dramatic. Dr. Harris said it was benign. Yes, but the location was dangerous. The pressure it was creating could have caused permanent damage. I was repeating the doctor's exact words. Words my father should have heard and understood. Your mother is devastated, he said, changing tactics. She couldn't enjoy the shower because she was worried about you, but she couldn't leave because Amber needed her. I needed her too, I said quietly. I needed both of you. Dad checked his watch impatiently. I have a meeting at 1. Your mother might stop by later if she can get away. Amber is still too upset to visit. Too upset? I echoed incredulously. I'm the one who had brain surgery and woke up alone. Always making it about yourself, Dad muttered, shaking his head as he turned to leave. Call your sister when you're ready to apologize. He left without a backward glance, leaving me trembling with a mixture of pain, anger, and profound hurt. Almost immediately after he left, my phone rang. "Mom." "Randall," she began without preamble, "your father just called me. He says you're still being difficult." "Difficult?" I repeated. "Mom, I had brain surgery yesterday. No one from my family was there when I woke up. And somehow I'm the villain in this story?" "No one is calling you a villain, honey. We're just disappointed in your timing." "My timing?" I was starting to feel like a parrot, repeating their absurd accusations back to them. "I didn't choose when to get a brain tumor." "There's no need to raise your voice," Mom replied primly. "You know your sister has always been sensitive. She feels things deeply. This pregnancy is a miracle for her after so many disappointments." "I know that, Mom. I've supported her through every failed attempt. I was the one who drove her to appointments when Greg was working. I was the one who sat with her after the second miscarriage, when she couldn't stop crying. Then, you should understand why this shower was so important to her." I closed my eyes, trying to remain calm. "I do understand. What I don't understand is why my brain surgery was less important than a party that could have been rescheduled." "It wasn't just a party, Randall. It was a celebration of new life, and you deliberately overshadowed it. There was that accusation again, that I had somehow planned this whole medical emergency as an attention-grabbing scheme." "Mom, do you actually believe I got a brain tumor on purpose? That I scheduled surgery on the same day as Amber's shower to steal her spotlight?" Her silence spoke volumes. "I need to go," she said finally. "Amber needs help organizing the shower gifts. The registry list got mixed up, and some people brought duplicates." The call ended, leaving me staring at the phone in disbelief. My own mother believed I would fake a life-threatening condition for attention. As if on cue, a group text from Amber appeared on my screen. "I've tried to be understanding, but this is the last straw. You've been attention-seeking your entire life, but this crosses a line. Scheduling brain surgery on my baby shower day? Really, Randall? Everyone was talking about you, instead of celebrating my miracle baby. Thanks for ruining yet another special moment for me." The text was followed by a barrage of examples allegedly proving my history of jealousy. Me announcing my college acceptance during her Sweet 16 party. I had received the letter that day and quietly told only my parents, who insisted on sharing the news. Me getting the flu during her high school graduation, completely beyond my control. Me proposing to my ex-girlfriend the same year as her wedding. We had been dating for 5 years, and the proposal had nothing to do with her. The family narrative was being rewritten before my eyes, casting me as the perpetual villain, always seeking to undermine my sister's happiness. A completely fabricated history that bore no resemblance to reality. Taylor returned with lunch from the hospital cafeteria, finding me in tears. "What happened?" he asked, setting down the tray. I showed him the texts. "They think I did this on purpose. They've created this whole alternative history where I've always been jealous of Amber." Taylor looked genuinely confused. "But you've always been the one supporting her. Remember when you skipped that job interview to drive her to that fertility specialist in Baltimore? Or when you put off buying your condo because you lent her money for IVF? At least someone remembered the truth. But the person who knew the real history wasn't my flesh and blood." Taylor stayed until a nurse informed us that additional tests had been scheduled. My post-operative MRI had shown some concerning swelling that needed monitoring. The possibility of a second procedure was mentioned. "I'll be back tomorrow," Taylor promised, squeezing my shoulder gently. "Try to rest. Don't engage with them right now." Alone in my hospital room as evening fell, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Amber and me building sandcastles at Virginia Beach, helping her move into her first apartment. Standing beside her at her wedding, genuinely thrilled for her happiness. Had it all been a lie? Had they always seen me as competition rather than family? The thought was unbearable. My phone buzzed with yet another accusatory text, this time from an aunt I rarely spoke to. "Your poor sister cried herself to sleep again tonight. I hope you're satisfied with the pain you've caused." Something inside me broke. The final thread holding together my self-image as a loved and valued member of my family snapped. I turned off my phone and wept openly, not bothering to wipe away the tears. The physical pain of surgery paled in comparison to the agony of betrayal. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alone, cast out from the family I had always loved and supported unconditionally. Nancy found me this way, during her evening rounds. Without a word, she sat on the edge of the bed and held my hand until the storm of emotions subsided. "Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the least capable of it," she said softly. "That's not a reflection on you. That's their limitation." Her simple kindness, from someone who was essentially a stranger, only highlighted the cruel absence of the people who should have been there for me. As darkness fell outside my window, I reached rock bottom, physically weakened, emotionally shattered, and completely abandoned by those I had always counted on. I faced the terrifying prospect that everything I believed about my family and my place within it had been an illusion. The hospital room was quiet, except for the gentle snoring from the bed across from mine. My new roommate, Frank, was an elderly man recovering from hip replacement surgery. He had been wheeled in late the previous night after the doctors decided I needed closer monitoring due to the concerning swelling. I hadn't slept much, thoughts churning endlessly about my family's abandonment and accusations. Around dawn, Frank stirred and noticed me staring at the ceiling. "Rough night?" he asked, his voice gravelly with age. "You could say that," I replied. "Brain surgery, huh? My nephew had that. Tough business." I nodded, not really in the mood for conversation. "Your family coming to visit today?" he asked innocently. The question triggered fresh pain. "No, they're busy." Frank studied me with shrewd blue eyes that missed nothing despite his 80-plus years. "Too busy for brain surgery? Must be something important." "My sister's baby shower," I said flatly. Frank let out a low whistle. "That was yesterday, and they're still at it?" Despite everything, I found myself telling this stranger the whole sordid story. The scheduling conflict, waking up alone, the accusations, the 37 missed calls, all of it. Frank listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or shaking his head. "Son," he said when I finished, "I don't know you or your family, but I know toxic when I hear it. Been there myself. My brother didn't speak to me for 20 years because I missed his kid's college graduation. I was having bypass surgery." He tapped his chest. 6 bypasses. "Still has the nerve to say I did it on purpose." "How did you deal with it?" I asked. Took me years to realize it wasn't about me at all. Some people need drama like they need oxygen. They need someone to be the villain in their story. He adjusted himself in the bed with a wince. "The question is, do you want to keep playing the role they've assigned you?" His words struck something deep within me. Was that what I had been doing all these years? Playing an assigned role in my family's drama? Dr. Harris arrived with a team of residents, interrupting our conversation. The news was mixed. The swelling had stabilized, which was positive, but they wanted to keep me another 2 days for observation. "Is there anyone who can stay with you after discharge?" Dr. Harris asked. "You shouldn't be alone for at least a week post-surgery." Before I could answer, Frank spoke up. His friend Taylor offered. "Good kid, that one." I glanced at Frank, surprised he had remembered Taylor's name from my rambling story. He gave me a conspiratorial wink. After the medical team left, a hospital therapist named Dr. Bennett came to see me. She was a petite woman with a no-nonsense demeanor that I appreciated immediately. "Nancy asked me to stop by," she explained. "She mentioned you might be dealing with some family issues on top of your medical concerns." Ordinarily, I might have deflected, minimized, kept up the appearance that everything was fine, but something had shifted inside me. Frank's question echoed in my mind. Did I want to keep playing the role they'd assigned me? "My family thinks I scheduled brain surgery to sabotage my sister's baby shower," I told Dr. Bennett bluntly. "They've decided I'm jealous of her, and always have been. They're demanding I apologize for ruining her special day by having a tumor removed from my brain." To her credit, Dr. Bennett didn't look shocked. "And what do you think about their perspective?" "I think it's insane," I replied honestly. "I've spent my entire life supporting my sister. I would never intentionally hurt her. Yet they believe you would," she observed. "Where do you think that belief comes from?" I hadn't considered this question. "I don't know. Maybe they need someone to blame when things don't go perfectly for her?" Dr. Bennett nodded thoughtfully. Family dynamics often establish themselves early, and they can be remarkably resistant to change. If your role has been to prioritize your sister's needs above your own, any deviation from that pattern, even one as unavoidable as urgent medical care, might be perceived as a threat to the established order. She spent the next hour helping me identify patterns in my family relationships that I had never consciously recognized. How I had always been expected to be the strong one, the supportive one, the one who sacrificed for others. How Amber's emotional needs always took precedence. How my parents consistently reinforced these roles. What do I do now? I asked finally. How do I respond to them? That depends on what you want, Dr. Bennett replied. If you want things to go back to exactly the way they were, you would need to apologize as they're demanding, even though you've done nothing wrong. That would reinforce the existing dynamic. And the alternative? You establish boundaries. You communicate clearly that their behavior was hurtful and unacceptable. You make your expectations explicit. This will likely create conflict initially, as they resist the change, but it's the only path to a healthier relationship. The idea of confronting my family was terrifying. I had spent 32 years avoiding conflict with them at all costs. Will they even listen? I wondered aloud. That's not something you can control, Dr. Bennett said gently. You can only control your own actions and responses. After she left, Taylor arrived with real coffee and a bag of books to help pass the time. You look better, he observed. Still terrible, but better. I managed a weak smile. Dr. Bennett thinks I need to establish boundaries with my family. Dr. Bennett is a genius, Taylor said, pulling up a chair. I've been telling you that for years. I wouldn't even know where to start. Taylor opened his laptop. Let's look at your old journals. Remember those Google Docs you used to keep? Maybe there's a pattern we can identify. We spent the afternoon combing through years of my private writings. A disturbing picture emerged. Countless instances where I had set aside my own needs for Amber or my parents. Times when I had felt hurt, but immediately dismissed my own feelings as selfish or unimportant. A lifetime of putting myself last. Look at this entry from Amber's wedding, Taylor pointed out. You worked yourself into exhaustion helping with preparations, then apologized for getting a migraine during the reception. I felt terrible about it, I remembered. Mom was so upset that I wasn't in more of the photos. Dude, you were literally throwing up from pain, and they made you feel guilty about it. Frank, who had been pretending not to eavesdrop, chimed in. Sounds like classic golden child and scapegoat dynamic to me. My ex-wife had a psychology degree. Couldn't stop analyzing our family at Thanksgiving dinner. I laughed despite myself. Frank's blunt observations were oddly comforting. That evening, I made a decision. I drafted a message to my family. I am recovering from brain surgery. The operation was successful, but there are complications requiring additional monitoring. I am deeply hurt that none of you were present when I woke up, and that you've accused me of scheduling a necessary medical procedure to undermine Amber's baby shower. I did not choose to have a brain tumor, nor did I select the date of surgery. Dr. Harris can confirm this was the earliest available slot, and it was medically urgent. I love you all, but I cannot accept being treated this way. I will be staying with Taylor after discharge. When you are ready to acknowledge the hurt you've caused and apologize, I am open to conversation. Until then, I need space to focus on my physical recovery. I read it to Taylor and Frank, who both approved. Clear, direct, not accusatory but not a doormat either, Frank summarized. Are you sure you want to send it? Taylor asked. It's a big step. I took a deep breath and hit send before I could lose my nerve. Yes, it's time. The responses came quickly. Mom, I can't believe you're making this difficult situation even worse. Dad, this is extremely disappointing, Randall. Amber. Classic victim behavior. I turned off my phone. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to engage in their drama or try to manage their emotions. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since surgery. The next morning, brought news that the concerning swelling had decreased significantly. Dr. Harris was pleased with my progress. "You seem different today," he observed, more at peace. "I am," I realized. "I've made some important decision." Frank was discharged that afternoon. Before leaving, he scribbled his phone number on a hospital menu. "Call me if you need an old man's perspective," he said gruffly. "Or if you just want to complain about ungrateful relatives. I've got plenty of stories to share." I thanked him sincerely. This unexpected friendship, formed in the crucible of hospital confinement, felt like a gift. Later that day, my cousin James called. Unlike the barrage of accusatory calls I'd received, James was genuinely concerned. "I just heard about your surgery," he said. "I had no idea it was happening the same day as the shower. Are you okay?" James had always been something of an outsider in the family himself. He understood the dynamics better than most. "I'm getting there," I told him, physically and emotionally. "Listen," he said hesitantly, "I've had similar experiences with the family. The way they make everything about Amber. The way they expect everyone else to sacrifice without acknowledgement. If you ever want to talk to someone who gets it, I'm here." His understanding was like a lifeline. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. Other people had noticed the dysfunctional patterns too. That evening, Mom called again. I almost didn't answer, but decided it was time to practice my new boundaries directly. "Randall," she began, her voice artificially sweet, "we really need you to call your sister. She's very upset, and in her condition, stress isn't good for the baby." In the past, this tactic would have worked immediately. I would have abandoned my own needs to soothe Amber's feelings, but not today. "Mom," I said calmly, "I'm recovering from brain surgery. I need to focus on my health right now. I've said I'm open to conversation when you're ready to acknowledge how hurtful your actions were. But your sister—" "I love Amber," I interrupted gently. "I always have. But I can't put her needs above my own right now. I need time to heal." "I don't recognize you anymore," Mom said, sounding genuinely perplexed. "You've always been so understanding." "I'm still me," I assured her. "I'm just taking care of myself too now." The call ended without resolution, but I felt stronger for having maintained my boundary. It was a small victory, but a significant one. That night, I slept without medication for the first time since surgery. The physical pain was still present, but manageable. The emotional pain was beginning to transform into something else. A sense of liberation from patterns that had bound me for decades. I was starting to envision a life where my worth wasn't determined by how much I sacrificed for others, where my needs mattered too, where genuine love didn't require erasure of self. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The day of my discharge arrived bright and clear. Taylor had taken the day off work to drive me home and help me settle in. As I packed my few belongings, Nancy stopped by with discharge papers and care instructions. "Someone's here to see you," she said, her expression carefully neutral. My parents and Amber filed into the room, looking uncomfortable. Mom carried flowers. Dad had a balloon that said, "Get well soon." Amber hung back near the door, one hand protectively over her slightly rounded belly. "We came to take you home," Mom announced, as if the past 5 days hadn't happened. I glanced at Taylor, who gave me an encouraging nod. "Thank you for coming," I said sincerely. "But Taylor is taking me to his place. I mentioned that in my message." "Don't be ridiculous," Dad said dismissively. "You need family right now." "I do," I agreed. "But I need family who respects my boundaries and acknowledges when they've hurt me." Mom sighed dramatically. "Randall, we've all been under tremendous stress. Can't we just put this unpleasantness behind us?" "It's not that simple," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the anxiety churning in my stomach. "I woke up from brain surgery completely alone because my entire family chose to attend a baby shower instead. Then you accused me of scheduling necessary medical treatment to sabotage Amber's special day. That's not unpleasantness. We can just sweep under the rug." "You're making it sound worse than it was," Amber said, speaking for the first time. "We were going to visit after the shower, but then we heard you were being difficult with Dad." "Difficult?" I echoed. By what definition is expecting family support after brain surgery being difficult? The conversation was circular and frustrating. They wanted immediate reconciliation without accountability. I wanted acknowledgement of the hurt they'd caused before moving forward. We were at an impasse. "I appreciate you coming today," I said finally. "But I've made my decision. I'm going to Taylor's to recover. When you're ready to really talk about what happened, I'll be there." They left reluctantly, clearly bewildered by my newfound backbone. As Taylor wheeled me to his car, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: sadness at the rift with my family, pride in standing my ground, anxiety about the uncertain path ahead. "You did good," Taylor assured me as he drove toward his apartment. "That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted, "but it was necessary." The next week passed in relative peace. Taylor's spare bedroom became my recovery sanctuary. His girlfriend Mia dropped by with homemade soup and gentle encouragement. My stitches itched, my head ached, but the crushing emotional pain had begun to subside. Dr. Bennett continued our sessions via video call. We worked on identifying healthy boundaries and preparing for the inevitable confrontations to come. I connected with an online support group for people estranged from family members. Their stories were heartbreakingly familiar. Then, exactly 1 week after my discharge, Amber showed up unannounced at Taylor's apartment. "We need to talk," she announced when I opened the door. I invited her in cautiously. She perched on the edge of the sofa, looking around Taylor's bachelor pad with barely disguised disdain. "Mom and Dad are really upset," she began without preamble. "They don't understand why you're being so difficult. How would you feel if you woke up from major surgery and no one from your family was there?" I asked quietly. Amber waved her hand dismissively. "That's different. This pregnancy is my miracle after years of trying. You know how important it was to have everyone at the shower. My brain surgery was important too, Amber. The tumor could have killed me, if not removed promptly. But it didn't," she countered. "You're fine. Meanwhile, I had to deal with everyone asking about you instead of focusing on me and the baby." The self-centeredness of her perspective was breathtaking. In the past, I would have immediately backed down, apologized, done whatever necessary to restore peace. But Dr. Bennett's words echoed in my mind. "Boundaries are necessary for healthy relationships." "I understand the shower was important to you," I said carefully. "I would never intentionally overshadow your special day. But my need for medical care was not an attack on you. It was not planned to hurt you. It was necessary for my survival." "You could have scheduled it for another day," she insisted stubbornly. "No, I couldn't," I replied firmly. "Dr. Harris can confirm that. And even if other dates had been available, you and the family should have been there for me, just as I've always been there for you." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "See, you're making me upset. Do you know how dangerous stress is during pregnancy?" The tears, the pregnancy card, these were her standard tactics whenever confronted. Usually, they worked instantly. Today, I recognized them for what they were: manipulation. "I'm sorry you're upset," I said sincerely, "but I'm not responsible for managing your emotions. I need you to hear me when I say that I was deeply hurt by being abandoned during a life-threatening medical crisis." "So what do you want?" she asked petulantly. "For all of us to grovel and beg forgiveness?" "No. I just want acknowledgement that what happened was wrong and hurtful. I want a genuine apology, and I want assurance that it won't happen again." Amber stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're using this surgery to play the victim and make demands." As she stormed out, I remained calm. Her accusations no longer had the power to devastate me. I was beginning to see them for what they were: projections of her own insecurities, not reflections of reality. The following day, my parents called to suggest a family meeting to resolve this situation. They proposed dinner at their house, but I countered with a session with Dr. Bennett. Surprisingly, they agreed. The virtual family therapy session was tense and difficult. Dr. Bennett skillfully guided the conversation, preventing my parents from dominating or dismissing my concerns. "Randall feels abandoned and betrayed," she summarized. These feelings are valid based on what occurred. For healing to begin, there needs to be acknowledgement of the hurt caused. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We never meant to hurt him. We were trying to balance two important family events. By choosing one entirely over the other, I pointed out. No one came to the hospital at all. Not before surgery, not during, not after. We were planning to, Mom insisted. But then we heard you were being difficult. What does being difficult mean in this context? Dr. Bennett asked. Mom faltered. Well, he seemed. He wasn't understanding about Amber's needs. I was unconscious, I said flatly. I was literally under anesthesia. There was a long, uncomfortable silence. I may have overreacted, Dad admitted finally. When I spoke to Dr. Harris and he mentioned the surgery could potentially have been scheduled the following week, I assumed you had deliberately chosen to conflict with Amber's shower. This was the first crack in the family narrative. A small acknowledgement that perhaps, just perhaps, I hadn't orchestrated a medical crisis to steal attention. The following week would have been too late, I explained. The pressure from the tumor was causing damage. That's why Dr. Harris recommended the earliest available slot. I didn't know that, Dad said quietly. The session continued with halting progress. Mom remained largely defensive, unable to see her role in the dynamic. Dad showed glimmers of understanding. Amber had refused to participate at all. At the end of the hour, we had reached no dramatic breakthrough, but a small foundation had been laid. Dad had acknowledged that perhaps they had misinterpreted the situation. Mom had agreed, reluctantly, that someone from the family should have been at the hospital when I woke up. It wasn't the sweeping apology I might have hoped for, but it was a start. In the weeks that followed, I maintained my boundaries firmly but kindly. I declined Sunday dinners until I felt emotionally ready. I didn't respond to Amber's guilt-inducing texts. I focused on my physical recovery and emotional healing. Taylor helped me pack up my apartment and move into a new place, closer to the hospital where I'd begun volunteering with patients facing surgery without family support. The work gave purpose to my pain. My uncle Richard, who had been estranged from the family for years, reached out after hearing about my surgery through the family grapevine. I went through something similar with your grandfather, he shared over coffee. Some families have patterns that go back generations. Breaking them is hard, but worthwhile. When the holidays approached, I made the difficult decision not to attend the traditional family Thanksgiving. Instead, I hosted a small gathering with Taylor, Mia, my cousin James, and a few close friends. It was the most relaxed holiday meal I could remember. The day after Thanksgiving, an unexpected letter arrived from Dad. Handwritten, not his usual style. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, he wrote. About the patterns in our family that Dr. Bennett mentioned. About how we've always expected different things from you than from Amber. I'm not good at this emotional stuff, but I want you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry. What we did was wrong. You deserve to have your family with you during your surgery. No excuses. It wasn't a complete resolution. Mom remained largely in denial. Amber still insisted she was the wronged party. But Dad's letter represented a crack in the foundation of toxic family patterns that had defined my life for 32 years. I called him the next day, and we had the most honest conversation of our relationship. He acknowledged the favoritism toward Amber that had always existed in our family. I expressed my hurt without anger or accusation. We agreed to try to build a healthier relationship moving forward. It was a beginning, not an ending. A first step on a long road of family healing. But for the first time, I felt hope that genuine change might be possible. 6 months after my brain surgery, I stood on the rocky shore of Lake Erie, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold and crimson. The physical scars had healed completely. The invisible wounds were healing more slowly, but steadily. My recovery had progressed well. The follow-up scans showed no regrowth of the tumor. The headaches that had plagued me for years were finally gone. Physically, I was stronger than I had been in a long time. Emotionally, the journey had been more complex. Therapy continued to be a lifeline as I navigated my transformed family relationships. I had learned to set and maintain healthy boundaries, to recognize manipulation tactics, and to value my own needs alongside those of others. My relationship with my parents had evolved into something new and tentative. Dad had committed to individual therapy, working to understand his role in the family dynamics. Our weekly coffee meetups had become a space for honest conversation about the past and present. "I never realized how unfairly we treated you," he admitted during one such meeting. It was always, "Amber needs this," or "Amber is sensitive about that. We put all the responsibility on you because you seemed so capable, so willing to step back." "I wanted to be the good son," I explained. "I thought that meant always putting everyone else first." Mom was making slower progress. She still struggled to acknowledge her part in the pattern, but small shifts were happening. She had begun asking about my work and my health, without immediately turning the conversation to Amber. My relationship with my sister remained the most strained. Amber had announced her second pregnancy shortly after giving birth to her daughter, Sophia. The news had been delivered via family group text, with no direct communication to me. I had responded with simple congratulations, neither overenthusiastic nor cold. Taylor and I had grown even closer through the ordeal. Our friendship had evolved into something approaching brotherhood. He had been there for me when my biological family failed, and that bond was unbreakable. Frank, my elderly hospital roommate, had become an unexpected mentor. We met monthly for chess in the park, his wisdom about family estrangement providing perspective and occasional much-needed humor. My brother sent me a Christmas card after 15 years of silence. He told me during one such meeting. All it said was, "You were right." Never specified about what. The nurse who had shown me kindness during those dark days, Nancy, had become a friend as well. She had encouraged my volunteer work at the hospital, where I now spent weekends supporting patients facing surgery alone. "You turned your pain into purpose," she observed one day as we shared coffee in the hospital cafeteria. "That's rare and beautiful." The most surprising development had been my relationship with Taylor's cousin Leah, who had moved to town for a new job. What began as friendly dinner conversations while she was staying with Taylor had blossomed into something deeper. She understood my family history without judgment and supported my ongoing healing without trying to rush the process. As my one-year surgery anniversary approached, I planned a small celebration of survival and growth. Not a pity party focused on what had happened, but a genuine recognition of how far I had come. The night before the anniversary, I wrote a letter to myself, forgiving my past people-pleasing behavior and the years spent suppressing my own needs to keep the peace. It was a private ceremony of self-compassion, acknowledging that I had done the best I could with the tools I had at the time. The relationship with my family would never return to what it had been before the surgery, but perhaps that was for the best. The old dynamic had been built on unhealthy foundations: favoritism, unbalanced expectations, and conditional love. What we were building now, slowly and with frequent setbacks, was something potentially stronger because it was based on honesty and respect rather than roles and obligations. I had learned that family is sometimes chosen, not just born. That blood ties do not obligate you to accept mistreatment. That setting boundaries is an act of love, not selfishness. The most profound lesson had been about self-worth. For 32 years, I had unconsciously believed that my value came from what I could do for others, particularly my family. If I wasn't useful, I wasn't worthy. The events surrounding my surgery had shattered that belief system entirely. I now understood that my worth was inherent, not earned through sacrifice, that I deserved care and consideration simply because I existed, not because I had proven myself useful or helpful. This understanding changed everything. It altered how I approached relationships, work, and life decisions. I no longer automatically put myself last. I considered my own needs alongside those of others. I spoke up when something felt wrong instead of swallowing discomfort to maintain peace. As the first anniversary of my surgery arrived, I hosted a small gathering at my new apartment. Taylor and Leah came, of course, along with Nancy, Frank, cousin James, and a few friends from the hospital volunteer program. To my surprise, Dad attended as well, bringing a thoughtful card and genuine good wishes. "I'm proud of you, son," he said quietly, as we stood on the balcony watching fireflies emerge in the summer twilight. "Not just for surviving the surgery, but for everything you've done since. For standing up for yourself even when it was hard. For helping others through their medical traumas. For building a life that matters on your terms." His words healed something deep within me. The little boy who had always craved parental approval finally heard the message he had longed for, that he was valued for who he was, not what he did for others. The crisis that had nearly broken me had ultimately freed me. It had exposed toxic patterns that might otherwise have continued indefinitely. It had shown me who truly cared and who merely claimed to. It had forced me to define my own worth rather than seeking external validation. As I blew out the single candle on my survival anniversary cake, I made a silent wish for continued growth and healing, not just for myself, but for my family as well. The journey wasn't over. There would be more difficult conversations, more boundaries to defend, more old patterns to break. But for the first time, I faced the future without fear, secure in my own value and surrounded by genuine love. The brain tumor that could have killed me had instead given me a new life, one built on authenticity, self-respect, and relationships that nourished rather than depleted me. It wasn't the path I would have chosen, but it had led me exactly where I needed to be. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't respect your boundaries? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Remember that your worth is never determined by how much you sacrifice for others. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it helps anyone going through similar family struggles to find their own path to healing.